Despite being heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 MotoGP World Championship will be remembered as one of the series' absolute best, after a total of 9 different riders won Grand Prix. Though technical regulations stay largely stable for 2021, with a freeze on engine development for most carrying over to the new season, a lot has changed on the MotoGP grid this year. All but Suzuki have undergone a lineup change, with several big hitters switching machinery. And with the new season just over a month away, we've decided to look at the 5 plot points we're most excited about in MotoGP 2021. Suzuki came into the 2020 MotoGP season the most prepared it had ever been since its comeback in 2015 to fight for the title. But few predicted Joan Mir and his sophomore campaign to end a 20-year title drought for the Japanese marque. Suzuki and Mir's success in 2020 was in no small part down to the efforts of team manager Davide Brivio, who has been steering the team since 2013. When his shock departure from Suzuki for Alpine and Formula 1, a story first revealed by Autosport, was announced in January, questions immediately turned to how this would affect the reigning MotoGP World Champions. With Suzuki opting to form a management committee of 7 high-profile figures within the race team instead of seeking out a direct replacement for Brivio, a certain status quo will remain. Such is the tight nature of Suzuki, all from the riders to project leader Shinichi Sahara in recent weeks have exuded calm over the situation. Suzuki's rider lineup of Mir and Alex Rins isn't likely to lead to a dramatic falling out, but the absence of Brivio will certainly put management to the test should tensions arise as both gun for the 2021 title. The stability in the regulations for 2021 should allow Suzuki to hit the ground running with its GSX RR, as it was usually the most consistent bike of the grid last year. But again, any deficiencies in the package and how those affect both Mir and Rins in their quest to deliver Suzuki the triple crown it craves will put its new management structure in the spotlight. Has KTM built a super engine and can it fight for the title even without it? The 2021 season is a big one for KTM as it will mark its first in the Premier class where it will not run under the results-based concession rules it has done since its debut in 2017. This is courtesy of its 3 victories for Tech 3's Miguel Oliveira and factory team rider Brad Binder last season. Due to the freeze on all engine development in 2021 due to the COVID pandemic, which included for the normally exempt concession teams KTM and Aprilia, KTM has been allowed to unseal its engines in the off-season to develop something new before it is locked ahead of the first race. This led to fears during last season that KTM could rock up to Qatar in March with a super engine. During KTM's 2020 launch presentation, motorsport boss Pip Beirer said no such radical development had taken place. Largely, he said, out of respect for its rivals. Whether this is true or not, the speed traps in Qatar will tell the full story. Regardless, the strong base of the 2020 bike Binder rode last season has him believing KTM can definitely fight for the championship in 2021. And with Binder and Oliveira helming its factory squad, double race winner Danilo Petrucci joining Tech 3 from Ducati alongside the promising young talent Iker Lecuona, KTM is a strong force in 2021. But is it a championship force? Super engine or not, there's nothing to suggest it won't be able to give it a damn good go. Can Jack Miller continue Australia's golden run with Ducati? There are certain things in life which just look right, and the Australian flag on the front of a factory Ducati is certainly one of those. Our friends down under and Ducati have enjoyed a glorious history in motorcycle racing. Thoughts of Troy Bayliss and Casey Stoner come flooding back when you think of that combination. In 2021, that potent combination is revived as Jack Miller steps up to the factory squad from Pramac. The one-time MotoGP race winner has technically been a factory Ducati rider for the past 2 years, having been on work-supported Desmos Edicis at Pramac. But the surroundings and capabilities of a full factory team will certainly be different and in theory should unlock his race-winning potential. It's been 13 years since Stoner gave Ducati its only MotoGP title to date, and it would dearly love to end that drought in 2021. Ducati has ousted Andrea Dovizioso and Danilo Petrucci from its lineup for 21 and has adopted a youthful look with Miller and Francesco Bagnaia at its factory team, while placing 3 rookies, Jorge Martin, Luca Marini, and reigning Moto2 world champion Enea Bastianini, at Pramac and Avintia respectively. Despite being 30 and on the grid for less time than Jack Miller, Johan Zarco at Pramac is very much the elder statesman within Ducati's ranks this season. If Australia is to welcome a new world champion in 2021, Miller does need to be a more consistent force on race weekends this year. But should he do this, he's already had the backing from some of his rivals, most notably Yamaha's Maverick Viñales, to be 2021's big threat. Will we see another Lorenzo-Rossi style rivalry at Yamaha? The 2021 season is a truly historic one for Yamaha. Not only is it the Japanese marque's 60th year of Grand Prix racing, it will mark the first time he became a Yamaha rider that Valentino Rossi will not ride one of his bikes in its factory colours. Yamaha has placed the 9-time Grand Prix world champion at Petronas SRT and promoted French hotshot Fabio Quartararo to partner Maverick Viñales this season at its factory squad. Both have a big job in their hands in 2021 in trying to help Yamaha reverse engineer the inconsistency issues which blighted its 2020 campaign. Despite winning half of 2020's races, the closest a Yamaha rider came to the title was Franco Morbidelli in second, and he was effectively on a satellite 2019 spec M1. Quartararo went from long-time leader to 8th in the championship, and Viñales was an average 6th. Viñales and Quartararo's troubles and complaints were well documented, and both will need to join forces in the pre-season to help steer the M1 in the right direction. This shouldn't be a huge problem. Yamaha's new factory lineup has generally offered similar comments and feedback last season about the bike, and with Rossi out of the picture, Viñales even feels Yamaha can now be one united team. How united both riders will be in 2021 remains to be seen, and Quartararo is hoping for the pair to have a rivalry like that of Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo's of years gone by. And Yamaha's bosses said during its launch event they'd be quite pleased to have some tension within its ranks, as it means both riders are doing well. Though I can't imagine Yamaha really wants to relive the volatility of the Rossi-Lorenzo days. Regardless, both are blindingly quick and will almost certainly raise each other's games as the season progresses. And perhaps, above changes to the bike, rivalry is exactly what Yamaha needs within its factory ranks to return it to championship glory. When will we see Marc Marquez return, and how will Paul Espargaro fare at Honda? For the first time since a return to the Premier class of Grand Prix racing in 1982, Honda didn't win a race in 2020. This was largely down to the absence of his talisman 6-time world champion Marc Marquez, who spent the season on the sidelines when he broke his right arm in the season-opening crash at the Spanish Grand Prix. 3 operations later, Marquez is now finally starting to show signs of recovery, but when we will see him back on his bike remains a mystery. He won't be on the bike in next month's Qatar test, but hasn't ruled out starting the opening race should doctors first be happy with the healing progress of his arm, and he himself can get into a physical shape capable of wrestling a 300 horsepower MotoGP bike. Speaking at Honda's launch event, Marquez is very much taking things race by race and isn't rushing in return, certainly learning from the biggest mistake he made in his career last July by trying to ride in the Andalusian GP just a few days after surgery. So now that he's likely to be out for the first few rounds at least, thoughts will turn to his new teammate for 2021, Paul Espargaro. Helping build KTM into the race-winning force it is now over the past 4 years, much is expected of Espargaro's switch to Honda. Though KTM's bike appeared a more user-friendly machine in 2020, the aggressive nature Espargaro has had to deploy over the 4 years he's been at KTM to ride the RC16 should translate to taming the notoriously tricky Honda. With just 5 days of testing available to him before the season starts in Qatar, Espargaro admits the pressure on him without Marquez there as a reference is high, as is the weight of expectation of being a factory Honda rider. But he faces this new challenge keen to show to himself what he can do. To Espargaro, this is the ultimate challenge as a professional athlete. For Honda, at least in the early races, hopes of podiums look like they'll lie with LCR duo Alex Marquez, who scored Honda's only podiums in 2020, and Takaki Nakagami. But once its new factory rider is up to speed, and its Golden One returns to full fitness, coupled with its strong work-supported LCR lineup, a repeat of Honda's winless 2020 seems unthinkable this season.